How's it going?
See,
Nice
that's
to
how we
see
can
you.
start this. Just roll into this right how we're going. Hello, everybody. My name is Gar Punnett. I'm joined here with Sabira Lakhani. This is
Hi,
our
hi.
first episode of Selling Circular, and I'm very excited to be
Interesting.
joined by a colleague who I think really can crush me in any circular conversation, and so which is why I'm so excited that she's here and we get to have very great,
Hi.
challenging conversations.
Thanks for inviting me to be part of this. I am actually like my life changed when we chatted many years ago, so I'm
Yes.
excited that we get to continue our career journeys, our life journeys on this circular path.
Yes, to that note, we hope that this podcast will be the way that we can help others kind of understand
Mhm.
circularity, get to know brands that we all know and love that might be affecting our home purchases, our clothing purchases, purchases in the office, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
We are faced with this constantly in our own jobs and our own lives of how are we thinking about sustainability? And then in our particular niche, how are we thinking about circular economy? So for us, this is fun for us. We do
Yeah.
this anyway. Um, why? What? How did we meet? Go through it on your end. What happened? Why do you
How
say
did
that?
we?
Yeah. Do you remember?
I do remember. Well, the rewind is I was in a situation at my grad school program where I happened to be listening to my current CEO, Dr. Gary Cooper, pitching his software product to my grad school. And I stayed in.
MIT, right? The yes. I'll be
That's
the
the
one
one.
to yes, that one. Okay.
That's the one. And I had just come off of working at a waste management social enterprise in India and was just obsessed with Reaply, which is the company I now work at. And I wanted to stay in touch with him and figure out if my career could ever intersect with the work that he was doing. And then I graduated. But because I graduated during the pandemic, my options for what I was going
Yes.
to do were pretty limited. But Gar and I were introduced by Gary while my grad school journey was happening. And Gar would pitch me, you would pitch me, as I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
you as you're right here.
Yep. I would just pitch
you
replay. I just
you would
kept
just
pitching
pitch
crazy
Reaply.
ideas.
And yeah, I remember one call being like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the next call being like, I don't know what the heck he's talking
I don't
about.
know
I'm
what
not
he's.
really
I don't
sure.
know.
A lot of
Yeah.
plastics recycling. That was the theme of that one. And then we just stayed in touch. And I remember you
Yeah.
called me one afternoon in the pandemic, and I was kind of freaking out because I was like, I don't know how to find a job, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And you called saying that there was an opportunity, and then I took it, and now we're here.
Yes. Yes, and now we're here. Nailed it. Yeah, on that end, for anybody who doesn't even know who we are in this,
Yes.
we started working early at a company called Reaply. And Reaply is a software company that Sabira continues to excel and drive the company forward on, where we were building technology that's really helping scale reuse for our clients, and really helping drive the ability to reuse valuable items that you might think of or take advantage of every day, but ultimately have significant value and should not be destined to landfill, but should be reused and reclaimed and not again sent to a demise of a fiery inferno or just being crushed. So ultimately, that was our job at Reaply, and it's been a lot of fun. Sabira continues to work there. I left a couple months ago and decided, okay, I want to go try something different, and I've started a company called Loop Layer. But ultimately, I knew that I didn't want to stop working with Sabira. And so we need to figure out how do we actually do something on the side that will allow us to continue to have engaging conversations with one another. And we hope that you also feel engaged. How did you, Sabira, get involved with circularity? What's the story here? Tell people how
The
the magic
moment,
happened.
the
Yes, the
magical
moment, the aha
moment,
moment.
the aha moment. I grew up going to India frequently, and always noticed that their world was so different than mine in terms of like the physical environment, just like worlds apart. It felt like we're on different planets. And I happened to go back after my freshman year in college. My freshman year in college was at a business school where we were having debates about shareholder versus stakeholder value. And I
Can you
remember
pull that
being
apart
like,
real quickly for someone? The difference between, yeah.
shareholder value, yeah. So when you go to business school, they teach you that financial returns to your shareholders, to the people who own your company, is what you need to maximize, right? That's legally also what the objective of a corporation is. And the hot debate at that time it was, well, what about all the other stakeholders that either make your corporation a possibility and or have to deal with or experience the consequences or the impact of your corporation's actions. So you could think that's employees, that's the government, that's the local community, the environment. These are all potential stakeholders, and what role do they have to play in the corporation's life and vice versa. And so that was the hot debate. And I
You were
remember
like,
being,
why are we even talking about this?
yeah, exactly. I was kind of mad. I'm like, I don't understand why this is a question. And I remember like a few lines from one of the classes, which somebody said, like, if I have to throw toxins in a river to maximize shareholder value, like that's what needs to happen because that's the law. And I was just like, I couldn't believe, right? Like you're thinking about cost cutting and avoiding spending to properly dispose of something so that you could return dollars to the owner. It just doesn't make sense systemically. Like the
Yeah.
people who are your shareholders are going to drink that toxic water and die. Like, what's the point of this?
And
I
the
don't
whole
get
point,
it.
long run, no one wins. Long
Right.
run, it's, that actually is a cost, and it's an
Exactly.
unaccounted cost. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that was kind of like in my brain as I went to India again. And then I went to India in the summer and just like, remember I was on a bus ride between two cities in the middle of nowhere, and I see like Coca-Cola advertisements in the background in like rural India. And so like the reach of Coke is really far, but then also Coke's trash is on the ground, like also in the middle of nowhere, India. And I also noticed like these women are collecting this waste as part of their like daily work. And all of that kind of combined made me think, something's wrong here. Like businesses get away with these negative externalities. Their stakeholders, like people of the world, are literally picking up their crap for them and having to make a life out of it. And that doesn't seem okay to me. So that was my aha moment. Since then, I've been called trash chair, trash queen. I know a lot of other people in the like sustainability circular economy world have similar titles because like fun titles
It's what
because
we do.
it's what we do. So
We think
that was
about,
my aha moment. Yeah.
I this is where I love that my angle in this is coming from an academic perspective too. Sabira got a lot of great practitioner experience of being on the ground in these communities in which this is very much felt. I come at it from a little bit of a different angle, much more theoretical, but also now trying to apply as much as I can. I come at it from the fashion angle, and the fashion angle is kind of simple. I was actually, before my career in circular economy and my passion now in circular economy, I was really focused on driving the success of TV and different social media programs. I was actually a producer for the Oprah Winfrey Network and had a great experience driving our viewers to hopefully make their lives better through our programming. But ultimately, my story started when I really wanted to start dressing the part. And I started a fashion subscriptions that are very popular now. But even at the time, it was kind of a new concept of a fashion subscription. But the clothing was not that high quality. And so ultimately, literally a week after I was wearing this great sort of heather-colored Henley, the shoulder started to wear, and actually the stitching started to come undone. And I called the brand, and they basically said, "Hey, we can't really do anything. We're not really going to help replace it, but you'll get a great new garment next week." And I was like, "This is not what I want in a brand." And that's where my light bulb started to go off, which is how do we actually create business models that are actually not only making the consumer's life better, but ultimately not wasting this material that is of value? And how can we drive this to be actually reclaimed and then potentially resold? I just didn't know that there was a whole world of these types of solutions in the form, and I needed to go back to school. And so I went back to school to Arizona State to study sustainability, but then got sucked into circular economy solutions. And then a couple years later, that's where I bumped into Reaply. My intro line to Gary Cooper at the time, Dr. Gary Cooper, was, "Hey, this is kind of weird. We have like the same name, and I literally just graduated studying this topic." And he let me start a week later, and then about a year and a half later, that's when Sabira and I got to start working together. So that's where all of this concludes, is us doing some really cool work on trying to find problems and create these circular solutions where, to Sabira's point, how do we become the trash people? How do we become the trash solutioners to make sure that there is no trash, that ultimately these materials are recovered and recaptured? Why are you so obsessed with the future of circular economy and what this could mean for our economy?
You know, I think when we think of the word circular economy, it either has a connotation of like green and sustainability, and or it's very economical and like has to do with cost and business. And to me, maybe taking a step back from that is like, for me, I was raised Muslim, and I was raised with this intention of, it's my job, it's my role to protect God's creation and to be part of the system of God's creation where I'm not really doing harm. And that through other like spiritual explorations and other philosophies, like doing no harm is really part of my life ethos. And that is actually what I think is like the fuel to my excitement, is that I think it's my job as part of my life on Earth to be excited about how we can protect the Earth and the environment and this like home that we have been given. And why I'm excited about circular economy in and of itself is, right now, it's the only seemingly good alternative to the linear economy. And the linear economy seems so unsustainable and so ridiculous. And the circular economy mimics nature, or tries to mimic nature, in the way that it regenerates and rejuvenates itself. And that's really like my hope, is the idea of it seems so in line with the home that we have. So that's what gets me excited and going. And there's a lot there. We'll get into more excitement. But
this is where what I already love about this is how my interest in this is probably far less noble and existential than yours. I do agree with it all. I'm obsessed with this idea of our future circular systems just being more efficient. And there's a part of this that drives me in efficiency, which is kind of almost gets back to maybe my I don't put too much of an emphasis on this on my life, so listeners don't worry, but my spirit animal being one of a raccoon. Like, I am a trash panda. It is how I operate. I like to salvage things. And then ultimately, to be efficient, this thing that keeps popping back into my head is Catan. You ever played Catan?
I have not.
So in this game, it's a resource, essentially a resource game where it's all about spending resources, getting resources, spending resources. And there's just so many ways that you can spend your resources inefficiently and you won't win the game. But if you can build your roads, build your towns, build your cities in a way that can actually make sure that you're maximizing the utility, you're going to win this game. So there's only one game to be won here. And we have to figure out how to reduce our impact. And ultimately, that's going to take all of our cities and all of our towns to come together and actually really figure this out. And we're going to have so many urban populations that are using all of these resources, and that's going to be the way that we can actually recapture them and then reapply them back into our use and what we need it for. If we were to leave our listeners before we jump into this interview that we have, what would be your closing thoughts here on what did you like about Chantal's interview that we have coming up?
Wow, I liked a lot about it. I took copious notes. The thing that I think bridges what you were saying with the interview that she mentioned is that this product that she has created, returnable packaging, reusable packaging, having to introduce the idea to people that it's a product that belongs to everybody, that is like that's the thing. That's what circular economy means, is treating what we have together in this world as public goods, and shifting from, okay, packaging is a piece of cardboard that it doesn't matter whether or not it gets thrown out or recycled if it's used once and I'm done with it. No, packaging, and we should think about everything like this, is in her model, packaging is meant to be circulated back, reused multiple times. If it's used from brand 1 to brand 2 to brand 3, it doesn't matter, and that's a great thing. And so therefore, like Sabira's stocking company branding shouldn't be on the packaging versus Garr's raccoon
Yes,
gear.
raccoon hunting gear. Yes.
shouldn't be on the packaging,
Right,
because the
exactly.
packaging belongs to all of us. And so that she had a ton of great insights. But if I were to like kick off this podcast with that one idea, is all of Earth's natural resources belong to all of us, and if we don't think about it that way, we're really shooting ourselves in the feet.
I think that's exactly right. To round this out before we jump into the interview, there's all money to be made in figuring out these business models. The point of this podcast is, how do we sell circularity? How do we talk to the entrepreneurs? How do we have these conversations with Sabira and I and others around what it's going to take to change the business model that is linear capitalism? And ultimately, we can do that. But I think what we want to do here too on this podcast is create that community that can have those conversations. So what you can expect every week, or actually I think it might be every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, is we're going to have these conversations, and the format of the show is going to operate a lot like this. Sabir and I are going to come to bring some topics, have some great conversations. We hope to be driving more of those conversations through you all, the audience, and the community that we can build together, and then take that into the conversation with the entrepreneur or leader that we might be talking to, that also has a perspective on what they're building or trying to pursue. So every week, again, every 2 weeks, my bad, every 2 weeks, we'll bring you those episodes, and we look forward to getting some good feedback and driving more of these conversations. So up next, we have Chantal Emmanuel, CTO of LimeLoop, a reusable and returnable packaging company. And returnable is very important, as you'll find out right now. Thank you so much for joining. We first met in 2019, actually.
Wow, yeah.
When I didn't even realize that how new LimeLoop was, and how you all were really just starting out, and what a great opportunity. I think it was Circularity 2019 in Minneapolis, that was like a big moment for the company. Take me into what that year was post 2018 and into 19, where you guys started this company, and what that was like, gathering the company together and then coming to Circularity. Take me through that year right there.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a lifetime ago. First off, thank you so much for having me. Really happy to be here. Let's go back to that time machine. So we launched LimeLoop in 2018, and the idea, I think like a lot of startups, is like, let's just start small and quiet and just build this out little by little. And then once we have this fully formed and baked idea, we'll release it to the world. And that went out the window within a week or so of us. We signed our first company, Toad & Co., and then had a fast company write-up within weeks of starting the business. And so any chance that we had
That'll change things.
Yeah. So the age-old swap to, literally building the plane while flying it, and, having the product, and we had the software, we had a customer, and we just had to kind of hit the ground running, which looking back, it's probably one of the best things you can do, because I think a lot of people make that mistake of staying behind the scenes and building based on what you think your customer wants. But we had an opportunity to get that real-time feedback, both from real customers and potential customers, basically from day one. I think that really helps to shape LimeLoop and what we are today.
So that day one, so it's great that you guys had a customer to probably who was very early on even good with the diamond in the rough of the company. What did that mean for you all in terms of being transparent with, hey, this is a newer concept. We're a newer company. What did it mean to them, and why did they take that first step?
Yeah, we are really, really blessed to have been and continue to work with Toad & Co. And so for those who don't know, they are a clothing company based out of Santa Barbara, but they are sustainability first in everything they're manufacturing, the materials they choose, the culture in the office. And so it not only helped us learn a lot from them. So these folks have been doing this for a really long time, and they were very open about their manufacturers and all of this information. But they really signed on to say, like, hey, we know we're your guinea pigs, and we're okay with that. And the reason that they came to LimeLoop is they had this really holistic and sustainable approach to their total 180 programming. But the one thing that they were lacking in was their packaging. And which makes sense, right? Because for a lot of people, that's the one thing you don't really have much control over, right? You're picking the thread of your shirt, you're picking how you talk to your consumer, but packaging, you kind of have to turn over to some third party and almost hope that they're doing it in the way that they say.
Am I right or wrong in this? Because I don't know the world of packaging. Of that can maybe even be an easy decision, because you do just like, it's so assumed that it's going to be cardboard. It's so assumed that it's going to be the standard that everyone else uses. Am I correct in that? Where that's just like, oh, that's a given, and then they didn't even think about sustainable packaging in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for someone like them, they thought about it, but there wasn't an option.
Right, you're exactly right.
Yeah, so they would love to have swapped that over, but kind of the only thing on the horizon right then was recycled, and we can have a whole other podcast on the truths behind recyclability. But I think they were just like the lack of option, and so they kind of had to resign themselves to the best that was available today until LimeLoop came along.
What was the process like for getting them on board in the beginning? And I'm curious what that, and we can play a little bit more into the present, looking back at the past, of what was that like then versus now? What is it like now that you all have probably a lot more processes ironed out? I mean, what was it like starting with them, and then how has that changed over time?
Yeah, the thing is, and I think anyone who works in circularity will understand this, is that there's the product and then there's the process of circularity, right? And so we knocked it out of the park really early with the product. Our reusable packaging that we designed and put into the world, those early days are still in rotation today. They're durable, they work well, they're beautiful, they're made of sustainable materials. And so there was everyone who gets that, and even from day one, loved it. Where we had a little bit of a dig, if you will, was, making sure the processes was in place. And it's particularly when you talk about e-commerce businesses, it was getting those packages back, right? The thing when you make a really nice looking product, customers think that they can reuse them.
Have it. It's theirs now.
Exactly. Yeah. And so even little tweaks like that Toad & Co. discovered, that calling it returnable packaging instead of reusable packaging, it helps people understand, like, it's not for you to reuse. This is not like your grocery bag that you're going to take back to the store. This is the kind that you can return to us, and we as the retailer will use it. So a lot of little learnings like that.
Little education tweaks of, no, this isn't for your suitcase now that you can use as like, something to pack things away. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And then from a processy standpoint, we learned very quickly that our postal service loves to mark with permanent marker, and they love to do that right on top of the bag. And so now you have this bag that otherwise is completely sound and working, but has this giant number on the label holder. And so from a design perspective, we had to realize very quickly, and we tried different things. We put cutouts. You'll see later iterations of LimeLoop has a cutout in the label, and with the intention for them to write directly on the label, and yet people still write everywhere but in that opening. And so those little things that you kind of can only learn by it being out in the wild and understanding that space. And
I want to drill down into that, because that seems like such an interesting, I mean, it's something that I always talk about with any circular programming or trying to at least get a program to start is
Yeah,
you never know what shifts in the product will need to happen from a design standpoint, and
for
how
sure.
you won't ever get that feedback loop, which is the reality of a product, that feedback loop from the market, from a process, unless you're doing it and I don't mean a big F in this way, but failing at it. You know,
Yeah,
small
absolutely.
little failures to again to really help reiterate the process or that design process. And so that's again, it's something I'm always talking about with people. Just you got to try something. You can't just always think about it
Exactly.
in theory.
Exactly. And you can't hope that people will do the behavior you want. You
Right.
have to design for it and you have to incentivize it. Like that has to be the easiest thing to do, right? Returning the
Yep.
packaging has to be easier than throwing away a cardboard box, or it's
Yes.
just not going to happen. So every little part that you put into that process has to be an improvement. I think what a lot of people, especially in the sustainability space, makes the mistake of doing like, well, people will do this because it's good for the environment. And it's like, that is not a
No, they
motivator.
won't.
Unfortunately, I wish we live in a much cooler and different world right now. If that was, it was all it took, you have to make an experience that's better than the alternative, or it's just not going to scale.
The I want to step back to then you were mentioning in the early days of in the design process again learning that consumers were not sending back their packaging. That's clearly changed. You all were boasting a significant percentage rate back of packaging. Why do you think that is? Is it as simple as a word change, or is there more of an effort baked into the consumers that are now engaging with brands? Or how do you think that is? What do you think is changing in that? And am I correct
Yeah.
in seeing I saw a 95% rate? That's
Yes.
pretty incredible. Yeah.
It is. And what we realize and why we have a CTO is that technology is a huge part of that.
Mm.
So you have to bake that into it. It's not just a physical solution. If anything, it's primarily a technology solution because you have to create those incentives. And that's where our platform comes in. So everything from twofold. One is visibility. So understanding where your packages are. It's impossible to get them back if you don't even know where they are in the
Right.
system. And so opening up that visibility both through tapping into the APIs of our carriers, and then we've also designed sensors to go inside of our packages and know where they are. And then armed with that data, you can create different opportunities to make it easy for people to send them back. So we're talking something as simple as a reminder email, like a timely reminder email. A lot of people do have the best intentions, but life gets in the way. And so you can put that bag by the door as much as you want, but sometimes you just need that quick chime to say like, "Hey, send me back." Like we
Charmingly
need you.
annoying. Just, hey,
Exactly.
remember us? Yes. Okay.
Exactly. Tying that with incentives like discounts off your next purchase. Hey, if we get this back in a week, you get a 10%, 15% discount off your next purchase, and really kind of creating those behaviors there. And so I think what we learned very quickly is if you do not have that visibility, you do not have those incentives, you're not going to get those return rates that you want. And one of the other places that we saw great opportunity is in the B2B side. So in some aspects, a lot of the retailers that are coming onto the platform today have somewhat eliminated the consumer from the conversation, at least in the beginning, and are looking for reusable packaging to get their products from their warehouse to their stores. And
Oh,
so that those
absolutely.
internal uses to get the 100 pair of jeans from point A to point B, as opposed to 100 individual pairs of jeans out to their consumers. And it's
It
a
was
great way to kind of turn over that experience.
that was one of the most astounding things I had learned talking to some of our peers in the fashion world at the conferences of which we meet is understanding. I never knew that individual pairs of pants get delivered in individual pairs of plastic often, and those get delivered then in maybe even bulk plastic bags.
Yeah.
And that B2B, that really makes sense too. And obviously that's going to come, I mean, maybe not obviously, it will more than likely come with a higher return rate if it's in that B2B context.
Exactly.
And so that's pretty incredible that's something that's of interest. Where would sort of, again, this goes back to the evolution of that process then, is as you went from getting that first client, ironing out some of those processes, I imagine there's still even been a couple shifts of going across a couple clients and then back to even more. What was that like? How has that been, really, I guess what I'm asking here is, what has the evolution been in terms of the processes, I like that you brought up the figuring out the design aspect from the packaging with the markers that were marking it up. Was that even a process change that was as simple as changing the packaging to a black that matched the markers, or what was done there to change that design?
Yeah, so the design itself was always kept to be simple and agnostic.
Got it.
And the bigger vision of that is to understand where we want to go to, which is that the packages belong to everyone. It's not, if you have a warehouse in LA and a store in New York, ship out your items in the LimeLoop package from LA to New York, but let's not send an empty package back across the country. Let's have that empty package stick with the New York vendor who could then use it. And so that's why a lot of people ask, like, hey, can I brand this? Can I put my own name on it? And we push back on that pretty heavily because we say this allows us for that near future where our packages are seamlessly moving to the next and closest company that need.
We started early on talking about process changes from the first client to where you all are now, and I would love to talk about your client roster coming up. But ultimately, I'm sure there have been many process changes over the last couple of years. Tell me about some of those. We talked about packaging design. What other ones have you all been really invested in trying to figure out the processes of either dealing with B2B clients and those relationships or dealing with the B2C world as well?
Yeah, we made a lot of those changes to the packaging early on, and then we also designed new suites and new design to fit different industry and different use cases. So I would say today, most of our efforts and the processes are spent in streamlining it for the customers. And what I mean by that is, of course, it's really nice to have a Toad & Co. who's ready to roll with the punches and maybe slow down their processes a little bit in the beginning. But we don't have that license. That's again not a scalable approach. We need to be able to come into these retailers and more specifically their supply chain and warehouses and say, hey, we're going to help you from day one. We're not going to slow down your processes. We're going to improve it. We're going to make sure that you have increased visibility. We're going to make sure that, the pack out, everything from unzipping one of our boxes versus putting on tape is a better and faster experience from you. Everything from how quickly it takes to fold down and fold open the boxes. Like if you've ever talked to anyone who works at a warehouse, we're counting seconds and milliseconds, and anything that adds even a fraction of time to a process is out the door. And I think that's important to remind people because I know when we launched initially, we messaging wise and the way that we talked about LimeLoop was very much focused on the sustainability and the social impact side of it. And while that is still number one for us, what we recognize, you have to be able to hit the markers on everything else, on the costs, on the processes, on the operations, on, the ease and just the delightful experience, right? Getting a box a LimeLoop box has to be better than getting a cardboard box, and the customers and in the store employees and all of those. And so when we think of processes, we literally write out journeys from a box's perspective, right? Who is everyone that one of our LimeLoop
empathizing with the box.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah. So that means the carrier service, the warehouse employee, the store or the customer. What is everyone's interactions like with our packaging, and how is every single step that we're doing easier and better than the alternative, from opening to closing to all end of life, everything.
Why do you think? This is going to get a little heady, maybe, and I'm curious in a world where maybe there were decisions that could have been made earlier in our shipping processes, industrial processes, where why is it now on us to not only be equal to what is a linear model, but equal to is not even good enough. It has to be so much better than a linear model for even to engage in the type of client that's willing to say, okay, we'll make this shift. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, have you spent any time thinking about all of that pressure that puts on a young circular focused business?
A lot of time. Yeah, we actually recently built out this model. We call it the LimeLoop analysis, where we take in a bunch of inputs around what the business was spending today on boxes and packaging, how much time they were putting in, how many packaging, and it spits out a percent of savings, and we'll run companies through it and it will spit out 15%, and we're like, that's not good enough. Like, we need to figure out how to make it better. And exactly to your point, and I think what that comes down to is, as you said, we've spent a long time building out this system, and so the cost of change is more than just that bottom line number that gets spit out. It's retraining. We've moved into automation in a lot of these fulfillment centers. So they've literally invested tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into creating a system that works with this particular set of tools and inputs
such a
in mind.
Specific dimensions, I'm sure, of like
exactly dimensions, materials, colors, all of those things. And so to say like, hey, can you change that? Is not a simple and easy thing to do, especially when these fulfillment centers are under enormous pressure as is. The Amazon effect of it is felt throughout the industry. This idea of we have to get this out yesterday. We need to almost know before the consumer orders that they want this thing and have it ready and in their hands. And so there's no margin of error. There's no margin of slowing anything down. And so if you want someone to change a really ingrained way of doing something, you have to have the incentive to make it worth it, and you have to mitigate the risk, right? Anytime you have something new, there's a risk that it's not going to work the way that even they say it's going to work, or that you hope it's going to work. And so how do you help them get over that hurdle? We talk about it a lot internally as perceived challenges. So it's like the things that come to your mind that you think are going to be a problem.
The nth degree of problems, yes.
Exactly. Or anytime you have something new, it's like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? What about storage? What about the zipper? And they're all valid concerns, and we make sure that we have a solution to,
I'll be the one to say that not all of
them
are valid concerns. Yeah.
But we really spend a lot of time just making sure that we design with that in mind, and everything. So storage, that part of that calculator will tell you how much space your broken down cardboard boxes would have taken in your warehouse versus the LimeLoop packages. Like, we have all of that data and knowledge ready for your use, and so we can answer those questions almost before they come up.
So in getting those questions answered, what do you find is the sweet spot for getting brands, or again, and I'm using brands maybe broadly, but anybody it's thinking about reusable, returnable packaging, what's the sweet spot for them to shift their shipping habits and patterns?
Yeah, it generally comes down to cost and timing.
Okay.
And so can you deliver a solution that allows me to go back to my CFO with a P&L that's better than it's been historically, and set us up for the future of where we're trying to scale to? And then have you caught us at the right time where we just haven't invested, in buying a year's worth of cardboard boxes.
Totally.
And so we're not sitting on that for the next 12 months and can't even think about touching that budget for new packaging again. So there's
I wouldn't have even thought that, of inventory being the problem there, where you need to catch them on that inventory cycle.
Definitely, yeah. And then even just the timing too, from a willingness to change. And so you can't come to any kind of retailer in the fourth quarter and say like, hey, let's just shake this up.
The holidays are coming up. You want to try this?
You want to redo all of your pack and pull infrastructure. And so timing works both ways. What have you invested in already from your packaging, and where are you in your ability to kind of make some small but necessary changes to make this work?
I love that. That's take me back to now that maybe the business model and how the business model maybe started out, and now has it shifted? I'm curious what your thoughts were in the beginning, and now with a little or a few more years, many more years under the belt, how the model has shifted to where now that CFO goes, oh yeah, this makes total sense now for us.
For sure. Yeah, we are. I mean, we've had many conversations around pricing, and we've changed things and tweaked things, and we've actually have come back to our root. And so just by way of background, my business partner, Ashley, and I, we have a technology background. We've worked in technology-based companies in the past. And so our mindset around pricing is is what people would consider as more of a SaaS model of a
Yeah,
monthly
absolutely.
type of subscription. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about how do we apply that to our physical product, knowing that the software is a big component about that. So it's always been a per package, per month pricing, and how we've designed that in a way that works for both of us. Of course, that is a reoccurring revenue for us, but more so for the brands, it allows them to treat that cost structure similar to what they would have been for their single-use packaging. You know, you pay for a box, you use it, and then you throw it away. What they love about our program is like with that one flat per package per month fee, if you work the system to be able to turn that over a couple of times a month, that's bringing that per use of our reusable exactly. So, and we work with you on that. We have partners in the carrier and the pickup and delivery services. And so if you want to, if you can move those boxes out of your storeroom every day, you can bring it
Yeah,
down to
you'll.
pennies per use.
I love that again, and this is part of, I'm on my own personal journey starting a new company, but everything that I've ever talked about with circularity or studied is, and I love that model, is you're fitting the current paradigm, the current economic structure. You're fitting the solution in and saying, hey, we can compete with that,
Yeah,
but by working with us over time, this will now actually decrease, and that will work to your benefit, and that's the incentive for you all. And I think
exactly.
that's so incredible and such a powerful statement for any circular business that's
Yeah,
thinking about it, because I hate to be this person sometimes, but it's necessary, where I go to other companies and when they ask my opinion, I sometimes have to say and give the weird bad news I hate giving, which is this is too disruptive,
yeah,
too fast. And
exactly.
so part of it is being disruptive, sure, but disruptive at a ramp, where you can disrupt up while they see their costs going down. And
Exactly.
that's something that I think is so critical to adoption in that way. You mentioned that took a little bit of a learning curve. What was that journey? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it came from understanding. Well, I would even say education, right? And
Right,
so, as much as we are following the model, that per use is a new concept for people, right?
right,
For to like, okay, and then just even thinking about what do you mean? Like, I could turn this around 2-4 times a month. Like, what does that actually look like? Like, how do I get them back? Like, what does intake look like from our manufacturing standpoint? So I would say there were times where we changed the pricing to kind of overly mold into the existing model, and we had to kind of pull it back and say like, hey, no, this works. This is part of where that LimeLoop analysis comes out. Like, let us show you how this actually works out at a per use basis for you. And then it's really thinking about, what's the additional ROIs that we can
right.
add from there. And recognizing that there are some problems that we introduce by adding reuse, right? So you never used to care if, a box cutter put a slash through your cardboard, it's getting thrown out, right? If something happens to one of our reusable packaging along the journey, then it's a different conversation, right? And
Yeah,
so within that SaaS subscription, we do repairs. We'll replace if the handle breaks after the 50th use, or someone accidentally does take a box cutter to it too because they forget that you could just unzip it. Like, we'll step in and we'll help you out for things like that. So it's one part meeting you where you are, but also finding opportunities through the added value to really make that number whole for people.
I think I love the iteration there, where I'm sure that at some point you all were like, no, that risk assurance or that mitigation that you all can provide, probably got some buyer along the way to be like, okay, now that makes sense. And
Exactly.
so it's that evolution of the business model. I love that idea too, that the externalities you're bringing in, those new problems you're bringing in, you can solve. Those,
Yeah.
a lot of these problems are controllable, but then talk to me a little bit more about, you also offer new things to clients and to consumers. There's joy in reuse. There's joy in
Exactly.
returnability. There's retention, client retention. Have you all done any research into that type of relationship building with consumers?
Yeah, and definitely more anecdotally today. It's
Yeah,
one of our favorite
absolutely.
things. We get tagged in, unboxing videos and people saying like, "Oh my God, I got this LimeLoop package," which we love too because we actually
Oh,
don't put our name on the packaging, so it means that someone's taken that step through their retailer to figure out like where did this packaging come from. And so that delight that you're talking about is a major process that we put into our design. And we we have a new zipper on our new packaging that we call the smooth as butter zipper. And it's just like I just like love the act of like unzipping.
It's the feel, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And you will never find anyone who describes cutting the tape off of a box as being a delightful experience.
Good.
And
Yes.
so how do you kind of, again, that one-to-one rotation and really thinking about that. And then the data is our big kind of value add on, even beyond the packaging itself. And so on our platform, we're telling you how much CO2, water, trees, and oil you're saving with each individual box that you're shipping. We're giving you data about which packages are sitting in the stores or the homes and helping you to target those people to get them back into rotation. We're giving you information about where they're traveling to and where they are within the world and where the bottlenecks are. And so what we look at it is, yes, of course, we're starting with packaging, but our way of looking at the system can be applied to any circular challenge. Because at the end of the day, circular is where is my thing? When is it coming back? How do I get it back? I think those are kind of the top three things that sound simple, but
and also,
we all know,
what shape is it in as it's coming back?
Touché. Yes. Really good point.
Yeah.
And so how do we answer that question across the board?
So on the data play, you all are providing that data back to the brand, and then it's up to the brand to relay that information back to the consumer?
Yeah, so we definitely put them in the driver's seat of the data today. I could see a future where we do a consumer up, but especially with the focus on B2B, I think it's better that, at the end of the day, we want the retailers to be armed with what they need to go forward to their shareholders, to anyone. We're not trying to we want to be behind the scenes where we are your package and your circularity solution, but you are the front facing part of that. And so what's the data that you need to make decisions for yourself and then also to arm your respective stakeholders?
Tell me about a newer client, someone that you've been working with that's got any sort of big new launches or things that you all have been working on. Is there anyone that comes to mind?
Yeah, it's super top of mind because they just launched this week, but Topo Design out of Denver, they're a really great company that does clothing and amazing backpacks, and they are shipping all of those goods from their warehouse to their stores in LimeLoop packages now. And so they're both leveraging the packaging and then the tracking data. So one of the things that we launched this year was real-time tracking through the LoRa network. And so getting away from this idea of historical data about where my packages were, but real-time current data about where my packages are. And so all of their packages have that capabilities within them too.
You used a term that I assume is more technical than I know, which is which network? Which the
So LoRa, it's an alternative to like a GPS in your phone or Bluetooth. Yeah. It basically, if you could think about it, that the U.S. and the world is covered with these different hotspots, and so different ways for people to tap in and say, this is where something is relative to this hotspot. Amazon's just opened up their new sidewalk network, which our upcoming iterations will be built on. So you can think of any Amazon device, the Ring cameras and the Echoes are serving as those hotspots. People get very freaked out when I say that.
That's wild.
Anonymous data. So it is not that I am standing up. My package is at Gar's house. It's that there is a device at this location and my package is near it, and then it's sharing that data out.
Then very similar to the AirTag sort of type of technology.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Got it.
So it allows you to tap into that, and it creates a really beautiful network. I believe Amazon is saying about 92% coverage in the U.S. And so just imagine that insight of no longer just going onto the UPS website and seeing that your package is in transit, but actually like knowing exactly where that is and where those bottlenecks are happening and when things are off course and just definitely not going to make it on time and getting all of that real-time information.
And so how important that is for returnable packaging and delivering that data back to clients and to consumers. Is there anything I've missed? What do I not know about? Is there anything that's top of mind that you would love to be like, hey, people don't ask me this about returnable packaging or LimeLoop? Is there anything?
Um,
What do you nerd out on at the company? Yeah.
I mean, the LoRa network, and it's definitely one of the most exciting things for me. And what's interesting, going back to the beginning of the conversation in 2018, we did release an iteration of our sensors that were Bluetooth enabled. And I remember turning to Ashley and saying, the technology we need to make real time affordable, I feel like we're just like a year or two out. And we did this whole research project to see what was out there, and there was rumblings around LoRa, but the network wasn't there yet. And so to be on the other side of that and to be able to not even say that network exists, that didn't exist as recently as when we launched, and that we now have a device that works on that network, in terms of CTO geek nerdum, it's just amazing. And talk about you physically could not do this a couple of years ago. It did not exist. The technology did not exist, and now here it is.
Well, and even something as great as that piece of technology that's going to obviously have some huge ramifications in our economy, the joy that it will bring me as a user, as a consumer, as a business, where to your point of that frustration that maybe I've had in the past where, okay, what does in transit mean?
Yeah.
And so now that delivers, to your point on a new experience, it delivers to you all some data that you get to relay back to a client to say, oh, I know what block it's on. I know that I could probably expect it not at the later end of some sort of time estimate, but I now can expect this package, these goods to be put back on the shelf, back in store by 3 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock.
Exactly.
And that's pretty compelling, I think, for any both linear model, unfortunately, those will go on, but also the circular model of where your packaging can interact with that, and then what that means in terms of returned packages.
Definitely. I mean, we've had it ourselves. We internally, our warehouse once misplaced hundreds of our boxes, and they're like, we're looking for it, but we're not sure. We moved between warehouses. We're not sure if it's at the old warehouse, the new one. And we had this moment of I wish our own technology were in those boxes. Yes. We could have told them which warehouse it was. And so we found a need for it even within ourselves, and understood that frustration of how much time we spent on the phone, checking in, filing claims, doing all of that, which could have been eliminated if we just said, this is where our packages are.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, and thank you for being the first recording of Selling Circular.
Really pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.